So one of the things that we moved quickly to, so Burnham and Root, we talked a lot about the arrangement of an architectural practice,
Mm-hmm.
and we spent a lot of time talking about the fact that there are four basic classifications within an architectural practice. And just to belabor the obvious for a moment, obviously design is a
Mm-hmm.
key component, project management is a key component, business development is a key component, and then the technical prowess to execute the design is another component. And those are really the four central elements for any architectural practice. So Burnham and Root, they shared some of that because Burnham actually had a little bit of panache himself, and so
Yeah.
he was able to, sell a client and sign a deal, even though he wasn't necessarily thought of ever as the lead design person. Um, but and so, um, which is a little bit atypical. The designer at Root was really the technical innovator, right? So he
Yeah. Jimmy.
created the platform, basically the floating slab in Chicago for all of the horrible soils that they have in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He created a way in which they could build high rises by building, a really deep, thick concrete slab that basically floated on the really bad soils in Chicago to raise uh, buildings to amazing heights. And he was the first one to do that. So typically, you don't necessarily find a designer and a technical person within the same individual. But what Burnham brought was the business development side and the project management side, the practical. And so they created in Burnham and Root the ideal practice because they had all four of those areas easily covered.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked a lot about that, about, in today's practice, it usually needs at least four different individuals who are focusing on those elements, because the talent for, one specific area um, rarely lies in beyond that one particular focus. Um, I feel like, as a design director, I feel like I'm a pretty creative guy. I feel like I am a really good technical architect, but I also rely on other people to be much more down in the weeds than I am in order to execute the designs. And so, again, we spent a lot of time talking about that in our class about the, the arrangement of an architectural practice. In the same way that, Sullivan and Adler also had, those skill sets, and the fact that when Root died, Burnham was still able to move forward with his practice. And Sullivan and Adler, when Adler left, Sullivan was not able to maintain his practice. And so what were the fallacies there? So we spent a bit of time talking about that.
It seems they are all four components that do work in tandem, but if you don't have the ends of it, as in the client acquisition side and the completion side in the project management, then it doesn't matter how great the work is, it can't be built because you don't have those things. And it's partly why we see a lot of uh, average stuff out there, because people can schmooze and can run a construction project, but when we're speaking about design or something that is way more subjective and beyond concrete numbers and a bottom line, it is quite crucial to have that element, as long as you have the other two.
So
Because
successful practice, in my opinion, has to run efficiently on all four of those cylinders. And if it doesn't, then you're going to have a failure in one part. I mean, you can have great design, but if you don't have the technical capability, your roofs leak, you get sued, you go out of business. Um, if you don't have the ability to go out and seek work and have a business development acumen and, be charming and all of those kinds of things, then you're not going to bring in even new work. And again, I think that Sullivan was so irascible as an individual that he turned away any potential client that would actually come to him, even though he was a brilliant designer, an incredible innovator. I mean, he built one of our first skyscrapers ever in the city of Chicago, but yet he wasn't able to maintain a practice, and so he was coming to Burnham later in life, selling artwork to him in order to just keep food on the table. I mean,
Uh,
that's you know that's a horrible way for an architect to go.